crucial, which brings us to rule number 2. Medium is now a community platform. It didn't start out a community platform. It started out a different kind of platform. It was a social blogging platform, but right now it's a community platform. And that is important for you to know. So your engagement on other people's articles positively affects the distribution of your own articles, meaning that the way you engage on other people's articles, on other people's stories, it affects the distribution of your own stories. Now, if you have read, if you have gone through my video on the truth about Medium, you would see where I showed you the difference between the For You tab and the Following tab, and why you want to be in the For You tab always. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, when you've done all that, the next thing is to apply to publications, because you're going to be writing. So when you want to apply to publications, what do you look for? The first thing is interest based. So the stories you read, look for the publications in which they were published, and look at those publications whether they are still active or they are inactive. There are lots of inactive publications on Medium, so that's that. And so you have to look at it whether it's active or inactive. So if it's active, they would have a place where you can apply to write, or you would see something like submission guidelines, or you would see something like new writers welcome, or something like that. And then from there, you can see how to apply to become a writer for that publication. So first, focus on the articles that are in your interest, things that you are interested in, because if you're not interested in it, it's going to get bland very quickly. And look for publications. There are some publications that are not accepting writers, that are not accepting new writers, but there are others that are. So you look for the ones that are accepting new writers. And of course, always read the guidelines before you apply to any publication, because you might read the guidelines and find out that, okay, this is not for me. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when you read the guidelines, you look at whether this is for you or not. If it's for you, you apply. If it's not for you, you just pass. There are tons of other publications that you can get to write in. So after you've gotten accepted by a publication, I highly encourage you to publish your first 20 articles without trying to earn money, without just for the sake of writing, just for the joy of writing, just write 20 articles first before you start worrying about views, before you start worrying around reads or your read ratio or how much you're earning. Don't worry about any of that. Publish your first 20 articles first. And that is very important. What you want to do is you always want to publish in a publication. Do not publish without it being in a publication. This is very, very important, because it has a very huge impact on the distribution of your stories internally. So always publish in a publication. You want your articles to be between 800 and 1000 words. Now, it can be lower and it can be higher based on the publication you're writing in, but I found that the best result that I have gotten is within this range, 800 to 1000 words. And you must, of course, if you are in the partner program, you must make your stories eligible to earn money, so that you can make money from your stories when members read it. So that is the most important thing to have. And just go for your first 20 articles. Now, at this stage, don't care about whether the publication is in the boost program or not. Just get yourself in as many publications as you can that is willing to accept your kind of stories, or that you vibe with, or that you have an interest in, and just write, publish, and then move on to the next. Write, publish, and just keep going like that. And after you have like 20 articles, then you can start worrying about, okay, how do I improve? How do I get better? How do I get into the boost program? So I'm going to be giving you 12 writing tips, and this is the first one. And these are just tips. They are not hard and fast rules, but I believe that if you follow these tips, they are going to help you to become very, very good and very, very prominent on the platform. If you put all these things into what you're doing, you'll find out that you're better than many of the people who currently write on the platform. So the first one here is to write about a subject that you know a lot about by virtue of your job, location, experience, association, or circumstance. This is very, very important. Write about a subject that you know a lot about. And if that can match with your bio, remember what we said in your bio, why should anyone care about what you have to say? So if your articles can match your bio, that is very, very crucial. That's very, very important, and it's going to perform well for you, and it's going to help you a lot in the long run. So keep that at the back of your mind always play to your strengths. Always play to your strength. Don't just write anything that comes to your mind or write anything that you feel like writing. Play to your strengths. Write about the subjects that you know a lot about by virtue of your job, location, experience, association, or circumstance. Writing tip number 2. Write about something that someone who doesn't know you or care about you would read and enjoy. So this is a very, very important tip, because one of the mistakes I see a lot of people make on Medium is you get on Medium, you are new, and then you're talking about yourself, you're writing stories about maybe your mother or your father or your cousin or something like that. The truth is nobody cares. Nobody cares about all of that. And you have to be able to sit back and look at, what are the stories I enjoy reading? What are they writing about? Why is it that I care about those stories without knowing the people who wrote the stories? So the question then becomes, how can I do that myself? How can I write something like that myself? Because if you're writing something that only people who physically know you would care about, then it's not going to perform very well. It's not going to go wild, and it's not going to go very, very far. And it won't be long before you get bored out of doing something like that, and then you run out of steam. So, writing tip number 3, write from your personal perspective. Use first person language. So, if you've observed, I have observed on Medium right now that first person stories performs very well. So, in my own case, for example, I use I a lot. I, as in saying that I like something, I think about something, this is my experience about something, and I use that first person perspective a lot in my articles. And I've seen that it makes the article unique. So especially when you're talking about something that a lot of other people have talked about, so you want to talk about it from your own perspective, from your own first person point of view. So it's important for you to write from your personal point of view, regardless of whatever it is you're writing from. Even if it's technical, even if it's technology, still find a way to put your own personal perspective into it, because things like that do very well on Medium. Writing tip number 4. Choose a befitting featured image from unsplash.com or pixels.com, and always add the image source in the captions and alt text. So this is very important. Medium is integrated with Unsplash, so you can actually search for Unsplash, search Unsplash on Medium. So if you're writing a story, for example, you can do that directly, but Pexels is not integrated with Medium. So if you want to search Pexels, you have to go to open Pixels on another tab on your browser and look for the kind of images that you want. And when you find an image, always put the image source in the captions. So there's a place for you to put a caption on every image that you use. Always put the source. And if you use Unsplash, for example, Unsplash has a kind of link or a kind of text for you to copy that you can just put in every caption. So you just copy it and you just put it there, and it works perfectly for image source. And then the alt text is when you place a picture into your Medium story, it will give you the option of it will give you a size option, and then right next to the size option, it will give you an alt text. So alt text is short for alternative text, which means that people who have visual impairment, how they can know what is in that picture, what is in that featured image. So you just describe whatever is there, but whatever description you're going to put there must be correlated with your story, must be correlated with your article, and also be correlated with your title. So that is very important for you to note going forward. Writing tip number 5. Write out 5 alternative titles for each article before you decide on the eventual title. Now, this is something I do a lot. When you're writing, when you've decided, I want to write an article about something, you can have a mock title that you are going to write something from. So you have a mock title for that. But when you're through with the article, when you've written it, when it's completed, you've edited it, you go back to the title and you try to make it a little bit more captivating, a little bit more expressive, a little bit more emotional, and a little bit more authoritative. And based on that, you can come up with different variants of the title. And then what I've seen in my experience is that by the time I get to the 4th alternative title or the 5th alternative title, it's very different from what I started with, and it's much better. Sometimes the best title I get comes at maybe number 7 or number 8. And sometimes, in very rare cases, the first title I came up with is actually the best. But that is in rare cases. So I strongly advise that you Write out alternative titles to every of your articles, and just it's a task, it's a brain task, it's a brainstorm. So you actually sit down and write the title out, and then think of how else can I write it, how can I make this more compelling, how can I make, and always think in terms of the people that are going to read your articles. So don't try to make it clickbaity too much. You try to make it expressive of the content, and make it attractive for people to want to know what it's all about. Writing tip number 6: always include a story in your articles. So if you're writing an article, even if it's a technical article, whatever kind of article that it is, try as much as possible to include a story. No matter how short that story is, no matter how brief it's going to be, include a story, because people remember stories. I think the algorithm loves stories. So if your article is not entirely a story by itself, you should at least try to include one or two stories inside the article. It will make it feel better, look better, and make it more enjoyable. And preferably use personal stories, because that's what is easily believable. Writing tip number 7: as much as you can, alternate between long and short sentences. Never allow consecutive long sentences. Now, this is very important, and I find out that there are lots of people who are great writers on the platform who don't even know this tip, who don't even use this tip, because most of the people who are going to be looking at your articles, who are going to be reading your articles, are going to be skip reading. They are not going to be really reading. They're just going to be skipping. So you have to be careful, and you have to be knowledgeable enough to make it easy for them to read very quickly. So the way you make them read very quickly is to have, if you have a long sentence, follow it with a short sentence. And if you can have multiple short sentences together. In fact, that is very, very good if you're having lots of short sentences. But if you're going to have a long sentence, do not let long sentences follow each other. Now, in rare cases where that's just how the article is, that the sentence has to be long, find a way to cut the sentence into two, or cut it into three, or shorten it in some way. And this is something you do during editing, not during writing, because when you're writing and you are trying to do that, it can mess up with your flow. So just write, and when you're done writing, when you're editing, just look for that. If you have consecutive long sentences, just cut them and make them short, so that it can be easy for the reader to digest. And then writing tip number 8, which is based from that number 7 that we just saw: always use short paragraphs. And my best practice is 2 to 4 lines. If your paragraph is more than 4 lines, if it's 5 lines or more, break the paragraph into 2. Sometimes you can break the paragraph into 3. I sometimes use 1-line paragraphs, and that can be very good if you are doing a very lengthy article. So because people's eyes can just get tired if they are reading a lot of stuff, so you want to actually break that down. So sometimes you use 1-line paragraphs, and it's just an eye break for people when they are reading your articles. So keep that at the back of your mind. Never let your paragraphs be more than 4 lines. Writing tip number 9: always put a source link on every claim or fact in your article. Go to Google or whatever and search something that is relevant to it, and look for the source of whatever claim or whatever fact that you're stating in your article, and put that link in the text of the claim inside your articles. This will show that your articles is well researched, and one of the things that is highly encouraged in the Boost program is well researched articles. Boost editors love to see something that is well researched. So even if you're talking from your own personal perspective and talking from your own personal stories, there are times that you make some claims that are like third-party claims. It's good for you. It's highly advisable for you to put the source link right in there. Wherever you find that on the internet, put it right there in your article. Writing tip number 10: do not add a CTA to your article. Medium says it's okay to add one, but experience has shown me that it has a negative effect on distribution. Now, this is just what I have discovered. And while some people would like to use Medium as a kind of lead collection place, I found out that it is not really, because Medium is a platform where you can read and write and there are no ads. So if there are no ads, you ought to know that it's not ad friendly in any way. So anything that is connected to being a ad or something like that is highly discouraged. But Medium understands that writers sometimes need that, so they give you space to put, let's say, one affiliate link, on your stories, or they give you a chance to put one CTA, maybe a link to your book or something like that. And by the way, if you're putting an Amazon link, that is an affiliate link. Whether it's to your stuff, whether it's to another person's product, it is considered an affiliate link if it's an Amazon link. So Medium says you can use one at the end of your article, you can put one at the end of your article, but I would strongly advise not to do it, because there's very little likelihood that your stories will be viewed very much from people who are not Medium members and who would want to click on that. It can happen, but especially if you're just starting out, the chances of that happening is quite low. So don't waste your time and just focus on distribution. I would strongly encourage you not to put a CTA in your articles, and also not to put a CTA on your bio. Just let it be. Now, when you're doing your about section, there's an about section on your profile. When you're writing your about section, you can put all the CTAs that you want, and then you feel like, will people check that and click on it? I'm not sure. I don't know. I doubt. But it's good for you to have all of that there, just in case someone is looking for more information about you. But within your articles, I would say no to that. Now, writing tip number 11, check for spelling errors and grammar mistakes. This is when you are editing. In my own case, I use the Grammarly app. I have it on my phone. I have it on my my PC, my laptop also. So it's good for you to use a plugin like that, or an extension like that helps you with spelling errors and grammar mistakes. Now, you may still end up making one of them, and I have, in some cases, I've had articles go viral and then there was a big spelling mistake in there some way. So you can always go back to edit and correct, but it's always good when you check for spelling errors before you publish, and grammar mistakes. Writing tip number 12, your first sentence must be a great hook. Now, this is very important. First impression matters. If someone opens your article, the first sentence they are going to read must be a great hook. So you must give a lot of thought, give a lot of significance to that first sentence that people are going to read. I would highly recommend, now, if you're not so good at writing, if you've not built the craft of copywriting, I would highly recommend that you should work on the first paragraph after you have finished the entire article. So when you have finished the entire article, you work on the title, you go back to work on the title and also the subtitle. Then you work on that first paragraph, especially the first line. The first sentence must be a great hook. Your first paragraph must also be captivating. Some have this idea of doing a kind of executive summary or a kind of overview, which is great if it is captivating. If it is captivating. And then another thing is, you must have a conclusion at the end. There are some people who are just curious. They saw the article, as captivating as your first paragraph is, they may not be interested in reading everything. So if you have a conclusion at the end, it will be very good, so they can just see the sum total of the idea that you are talking about. And it's always good that in the conclusion you bring everything together, all the thoughts together, in a simple, coherent, easy form that people can digest. So that's writing tip number 12.